All right, let's dive into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. We're talking about an AI that isn't just reading the book of life, it's writing entirely new chapters. An AI that has, for all intents and purposes, learned to speak DNA.
So just think about this for a second. What if an AI could dream up and build functional parts of life that have never, ever existed in nature? This isn't a hypothetical anymore. We're talking about biological components with no known ancestors, no evolutionary history. How on earth is that even possible?
Well, to really get how this works, we actually have to start at the end of the story. We need to look at the absolutely mind-boggling results first. We're starting with the discovery of proteins that honestly seem like they've come from another world.
I mean, really let that sink in. These are not just tweaked or slightly modified versions of proteins we already know about. Scientists have actually created working, functional biological machinery that is completely alien to every form of life we've ever discovered on this planet. So, let me introduce you to EvoACR1. It's one of these creations, and the researchers have nicknamed them biological ghosts. And it's the perfect name because when you search for this thing in the massive library of all known natural proteins, you find nothing. No family tree, no ancestors, no relatives. It's like it just appeared out of thin air.
So you have to be asking, who is the genius designer behind these biological ghosts? Well, the answer is probably not what you're expecting. It wasn't a team of human scientists.
The creator is an AI, a generative AI named Evo. And you can think of it just like one of those big language models we hear about all the time. But here's the twist. Instead of being trained on Wikipedia and the internet to learn English, Evo was trained on the genetic code of hundreds of thousands of different bacteria to learn the language of life itself.
And that right there brings us to the secret of how this is all possible. It turns out that the language of our genes follows a really old rule, one that was actually figured out by studying human language decades ago.
It's this simple idea from linguistics. Basically, the meaning of a word is defined by the words you usually find around it, right? The word queen means something totally different if it's next to king and castle versus if it's next to band and Mercury. Context is everything.
Well, it turns out biology does the same thing. Scientists have this principle they've been using for years called guilt by association. In a lot of organisms, genes that do similar jobs are often physically located right next to each other on the DNA strand. Their location, their proximity, is a massive clue to what they actually do.
And this is the big aha moment. Just like king and queen hang out in the same kinds of sentences, a gene that produces a toxin is very often found right next to the gene that produces its antidote. By spotting these patterns over and over again across millions of genomes, Evo didn't just learn to read code, it learned what the code means. It learned the function.
This whole insight led to this brand new method called Semantic Design. It's a total game changer. Instead of trying to tell the AI, hey, design me a protein that does this specific thing, scientists can just give it a gene they already know. They use it as a prompt. And the AI, because it understands the genomic context, designs a totally new gene that's functionally related to it.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like when the AI gets to work? The analogy is actually something you probably use every single day.
You can literally think of it as genomic autocomplete. For real, you give Evo a piece of DNA, that's the prompt, and it just finishes the sentence. But, and this is the crucial part, because it understands the language of genomics, what it writes next isn't just random letters. It's a brand new, fully functional gene that makes perfect sense in that biological context.
And get this isn't some 1 in a million shot in the dark. In the lab, the genes that Evo designed actually worked between 17 and 50% of the time. Now, for those who don't follow this stuff, in the world of designing proteins from scratch, that success rate is absolutely, utterly astonishing.
And here is the proof. In one experiment, they asked Evo to design some antitoxins. The results are just crystal clear. You see, in the first bar, when cells get hit with a toxin, their survival rate just tanks. But look what happens when you pair that toxin with Evo's creations, EvoAT1 and EvoAT2. Boom! The cells are totally fine. The AI's designs worked perfectly.
But then they decided to push it even further. They didn't just ask for antidotes. They prompted Evo to create a brand new toxin from scratch. It did. They called it EvoT1. And unbelievably, this new toxic protein has no real similarity to any other toxin we know of. It's a completely novel molecular weapon, designed by an AI.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Remember our biological ghost, EvoAIR1?
It was designed specifically to be an anti-CRISPR protein, basically a shield against gene editing tools. And look at the results. The controls fail, but both EVO-AIR1 and its sibling, EVO-AIR2, protected the cells, no problem. The ghost is real, and it works.
Now, what's so cool about this is that these amazing experiments weren't just a handful of one-off tests. The researchers took this process and scaled it up massively. They didn't just create a few new genes. They created an entire library of brand new biology.
And the result is something called SynGenome. It's a database that contains over 120 times billion base pairs of AI-generated DNA. I mean, that is just a staggering amount of new biological code. It's like a vast, uncharted continent of synthetic life, all created with this genomic autocomplete.
And the best part? SynGenome is open source. It's a tool for any scientist anywhere. You can think of it like a brand new parts catalog for biology, just filled with millions of potential new tools for everything from new medicines to who knows what kind of advanced biotech.
The researchers who did this work said it best. They said this is blurring the line between designing something totally new from scratch and just tweaking what evolution has already given us. So is this a new kind of evolution, or is it true creation? The wild thing is, the answer seems to be, it's kind of both. And that opens up a whole new frontier for science.
So here we are, back at the beginning, but with a totally new way of seeing things. We have successfully taught an AI to be fluent in the language of DNA. It can write new biological words, sentences, maybe someday even entire books. The only question left now is, what are we going to ask it to create next?